You're crouched in the mouth of a cave. Lightning just split a dead tree 50 feet away. Smoke curls up from the bark. You have never held a flame in your life, and every instinct in your body says run. But something in you leans closer instead. Why would anyone move toward the one thing every animal on Earth is wired to flee? How did ancient humans actually discover fire? Start with what your body already knows. Every other species treats fire as an emergency. Deer bolt. Birds scatter. Even elephants panic at the smell of smoke from miles away. Your ancestors should have run too. But here's the thing. At Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, archaeologist Francesco Berna found burned bone fragments and ash dated to roughly 1 million years ago, buried deep enough that wildfire couldn't have reached them. Someone carried fire inside. Someone kept it. That single detail changes the whole question. This isn't a story about who invented fire. Nobody invented it. Lightning had been striking dry grass for millions of years before a single hominin existed. The real mystery is who was brave, or desperate, enough to stop running from it. Here's where it gets strange. The earliest fire use likely wasn't creation at all. It was theft. A wildfire burns through a valley. It moves on. It leaves behind smoldering logs that stay hot for hours, sometimes days. A hungry, opportunistic hominin doesn't need to invent combustion. He just needs to grab a burning branch before it goes out, and keep feeding it. At Gesher Benot Ya'aqov in Israel, archaeologist Naam Agoran Inbar uncovered clustered burned flint and wood fragments dated to around 790,000 years ago. The burning wasn't scattered randomly across the site. It was concentrated in specific spots, over and over, at the same locations. That pattern means one thing. Fire was being tended, not just stumbled into once and forgotten. Now here's what nobody expects. Tending a fire for months, maybe years, is a completely different survival skill than starting one. And for most of human history, that's all your ancestors could do. They didn't strike stone against stone to summon a spark. They babysat one. Someone was always assigned to feed it. Someone was always awake to watch it. And if it went out during a storm or a river crossing, the group could lose their only source of fire for good. Think about what that means for a moment. Today, you flick a lighter and get flame in half a second. Back then, losing your fire could mean walking for days, maybe weeks, hoping to find another wildfire, another lightning strike, another group willing to share a burning branch. Fire wasn't a tool yet. It was a fragile, borrowed thing that had to be protected like a living creature. But that's not even the strange part. Fire changed what was happening inside your ancestors' skulls, long before anyone understood why. Harvard primatologist Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around this shift, known as the cooking hypothesis. Raw food takes enormous energy to digest. Cooked food breaks down starches and proteins before they even reach your stomach. Wrangham argued that once hominins started cooking meat and roots consistently, their guts could shrink and their brains could grow, because digestion stopped eating up so much of the body's energy budget. Here's the part nobody talks about. Your brain today burns roughly 20% of your body's total energy, just idling, just existing. No other cooked food species comes close to that ratio. Every time you eat a cooked meal without thinking twice about it, you're running on a metabolic shortcut your ancestors bought with fire, one burned root at a time. So, what actually happened at Wonderwerk Cave, another South African site? Paleoanthropologist Bob Brain, working from earlier excavations by Raymond Dart, found burned animal bones, dated to around 1.5 million years ago, mixed in the same layers as early Homo erectus tools. The bones weren't scorched by a random cave fire. The burn patterns matched controlled, low-temperature exposure, the kind you get from cooking over embers, not from an uncontrolled blaze. And here's where it gets strange again. Not everyone agrees on how early true firemaking began. For decades, the site at Zhoukoudian in China, where fossils of so-called Peking man were found, was treated as rock-solid proof of fire use going back 500,000 years or more. But here's the twist nobody expects. In 1998, researcher Steve Weiner and his team re-examined the supposed ash layers using microscopic analysis and found no chemical signature of actual burning. What looked like ancient hearths may have just been naturally stained sediment. Science doesn't hand you certainty. It hands you evidence, and sometimes that evidence gets overturned. Here's what changed everything, though. By around 300,000 to 400,000 years ago, at Gesher Cave in Israel, researchers Ran Barkai and Avi Gopher found something different. A large, repeatedly used hearth at the center of the cave, surrounded by burned bone and flint tools clustered around it in a deliberate ring. This wasn't opportunistic firekeeping anymore. This was architecture. The hearth had become the center of the home, the place everyone gathered, cooked, and probably talked. Picture that scene for a second. Bodies arranged in a circle, facing inward, faces lit orange from below. That's not just warmth. That's the first shared living room in human history. Every dinner table you've ever sat at, every candlelit conversation, traces its shape back to a ring of bodies around a Gesher cave hearth. But here's the thing that really should stop you. Fire didn't just cook food and warm bodies. It rewired the length of the day itself. Before fire, darkness meant stop. No hunting, no tool-making, no talking beyond a few words before sleep. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied modern Juhansi communities in the Kalahari and found something revealing. Daytime conversation among these groups is mostly practical, gossip, complaints, logistics. But nighttime conversation, lit by fire, shifts overwhelmingly towards storytelling, myth, and shared history. Here's where it gets strange one more time. Fire may be the reason humans tell stories at all. Extending the day past sunset gave your ancestors hours of enforced stillness. Too dark to work, too dangerous to wander, but bright enough near the flame to talk. That firelit window may be the exact evolutionary cradle where language turned into narrative. Today, you scroll your phone in bed after dark, alone, lit by a cold blue screen. Back then, that same darkness pulled a whole group together around one warm, shared light. The technology changed. The impulse to fight off the dark with something that glows never did. So, what actually tipped the scales, turning fire from a stolen gift into something ancient humans could make on demand? The honest answer is nobody knows the exact date. But archaeologist John Gowlett, who has spent decades studying early fire evidence across Africa and Europe, argues the shift to true fire-making, striking flint against pyrite or friction drilling wood, likely happened gradually, in different places, at different times, refined and lost and refined again, across hundreds of thousands of years. Here's the part nobody talks about. That means for most of the time your species has used fire, it wasn't a switch you could flip. It was a debt you owed to luck. A lightning strike here, a wildfire there, a neighboring group willing to share an ember. Entire bands could vanish, or merge with rivals, or starve through a hard winter, simply because their fire went out and no new spark came in time. Now compare that to your kitchen. A stove ignites at the press of a button, unlimited, on demand, no ritual, no tending required. You have complete, effortless command over something your ancestors risked their lives protecting for 1,000,000 years. That's not a small technological gap. That's one of the largest shifts in relative power in human history. And it happened so gradually that nobody alive today ever had to notice it happening. Here's what changed everything. One final time. Fire didn't just feed your ancestors or light their nights. It changed what kind of animal they could become. Smaller guts, bigger brains, longer evenings, shared stories, a ring of faces glowing orange in the dark. Trusting each other enough to sit still, together, defenseless, for hours at a time. Almost nothing else in the animal kingdom does that. So go back to that cave mouth, watching the lightning-struck tree still smoldering in the distance. You are not just looking at a curiosity. You are looking at the single moment that will eventually put a stove in your kitchen, a candle on your birthday cake, and a phone screen glowing in your hand long after the sun goes down. The tree is still burning, and for the first time, someone is not running away. If you made it this far, thank you for watching till the very end. Now, we would love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what question about ancient humans, evolution, or the human body should we explore next? Leave your answer in the comments. You might inspire our next video.